This is Intrepid Bear, a 40-foot sailboat off to explore the world with her crew Ian and Kate.
Come aboard and let's see what's out there.
Hi, welcome aboard for season 2 of Follow Intrepid Bear. We're here in beautiful Montenegro, 26 degrees, surrounded by stunning mountains.
Hang on a minute, you haven't said how we got here. Let's rewind a bit.
So there's a lot of shopping.
Yes, this is, well, it's to keep us going to Gibraltar and then on beyond to Montenegro, possibly. So it could be 2-3 weeks, maybe even longer.
So make a mental note of that, 2 to 3 weeks, maybe longer. Let's see how long this adventure takes. So we checked out, got stamped. How are you feeling?
Excited. It feels weird that we don't, we're going tomorrow. We've sorted everything out, boat's ready, passport stamped.
Any apprehension about the sailing or what? How do you feel about it?
Not as much as it was last year, I think.
Yeah.
I'm a little worried about feeling sick because we haven't been to sea for such a long time, but I know equally that will pass, it won't kill me, even though I might think it might.
But no, I'm slightly, what's the word? I suppose apprehensive is the word. Not scared, but, haven't been to sea for a long time, and the dipstick broke today and the sail was stuck in the sliders because we hadn't hoisted it for so long. But everything's running smoothly apart from that. I managed to sort out the dipstick thing. Full of fuel. The sun has set and we're ready to go. We're getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, setting off at 6. But we're all ready, so we've prepped the boat up, the kayak's secure. We fitted the jack stays. So jack stays are what you clip onto. You put a harness on and clip onto those if it's rough on deck, and they hopefully keep you on the deck so you don't fall off. So yeah, we're all good to go. We've got new furling line, shiny new ensign. Okay, so we got up at 6 o'clock this morning, no 5 o'clock this morning, it's now nearly 6 o'clock, just about to cast off. We've just set the cabin up for passaging, so we've got the passage berth. Kate's life jacketed up. How are you feeling?
Yeah, good.
Yeah?
Tired.
Passage nerves?
Not this time, maybe I should be worried about that, but...
No, that's good. I mean, I didn't have any up until about now, and then this early in the morning when I woke up at 2 o'clock I was feeling a bit, oh, what if we can't get into the Guadiana river, or what if there's nowhere to anchor, we've got to carry on. But we'll deal with whatever's there, and we're just going to get out and do it. Nav lights on. So bow to stern, so bow line first, spring, stern line last, and hop on. I don't like getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, but there's something magical about being out here on a totally flat sea. There's no wind yet, but there very rarely is first thing in the morning. It's just starting to fill in, so with a bit of luck we might be sailing a bit later on. But just look at the sunrise.
So as the sun rose on our 2022 season, our wonderful winter home of Portimao was behind us. Our first destination was the Guadiana River on the border of Spain and Portugal.
I should be forever grateful to Portimao for a lovely winter.
Yes.
Weather-wise, the best winter we've ever had, I should think.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So we've got nearly 9-10 knots of wind now, so we need to maintain our 6 knots to get to the Guadiana River in good time. But what we'll do is we'll pop the sail up now, certainly the mainsail. We're doing 6 knots under engine, hopefully with a bit of sail assist. We'll be doing nearly 7, and then the earlier we get there the better in terms of tide for the Guadiana River. Put the sail up.
Yeah.
You're going to hold her into the wind?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're back into keeping watch mode. We're just doing 2-hour watches so we can each cat nap on the way down, because we're just day hopping, so we're not going overnight, so we don't need any really long breaks. But Kate's gone down for a 2-hour nap. She'll be asleep till 10 o'clock, or she's off watch till 10 o'clock. And then I can take an off watch time till midday. I may have a snooze, see how I feel. All right at the moment. But we're motor sailing, we've got both sails up, but we're aiming for the Guadiana River. And the guidebook says you mustn't enter the Guadiana River below half flood, so on a flood tide and halfway up. Other books say just stay away from low tide. We're going as fast as we can to get there as close to high water as we can. This leg of the journey, which I'll tell you some more about in a minute, is going to be day hops and rushing as quick as we can to get there because of the factors which I'll explain.
But before that, there was a fishing vessel to avoid.
So there's a good example of how you determine if a risk of collision exists when you're underway. And we had that fishing boat out there. The way to determine if a risk of collision exists is whether it remains on the same bearing to you. And the way to do that with no electronics at all is making sure you stay in the same place on the boat. You view the fishing boat, and I could see that he was just in front of the piece of metal on the guardrail here, and if he stays in that position on the boat, he stays on that same line between me and the part of the boat that I've chosen, whether it be an upright or the window. If he stays on that line, then he's on a constant bearing, and that means we will collide. But if you watch for any length of time, if he moves forward on that bearing, he's going to go in front of you, and then as in this case, he's moved backward down the boat, so his bearing has changed, he's gone behind us. You could measure the bearing with a hand bearing compass, you could do it on the electronics with the radar, etc. But on a nice clear day like today, you just sit there and observe what's going on, and you can see that he was going to clear behind us, which he did. Okay, so come on up to the bow with me, away from the noisy engine, and we'll have a chat about exactly what we're doing. So yeah, so we've just left Portimao this morning, so we're only allowed to spend 90 days in any 180, in a rolling 180, in the Schengen area, which is mainly the EU and a few other countries. So we've left on the 1st of March. The reason we left then is so that we can have 90 days out of the Schengen area. Then we can go into Schengen again in June, which means we can spend June, July and August in Greece. That's our intention. We can't now go ashore in any Schengen country until June. So we're coming out now, we're going to head to Gibraltar. We're using what's called the right of innocent passage, which means we're allowed to sail through territorial waters, but we're not allowed to land and we're not allowed to loiter. We can anchor if navigationally necessary. So we're going to skip our way down the coast now to Gibraltar is the first stage. Because the other thing we're considering is the situation with the orcas that have been biting the rudders of sailboats. If we did get taken out by an orca or anything else come to that, we would be stuck with putting into somewhere like Spain, and we don't have any time left. So logistics of that, getting the boat repaired and everything else, would be an absolute nightmare. We're going down the coast to Gibraltar in 2 or 3 or 4 hops. Today we're heading for the River Guadiana, it's about 62 miles. Yeah, so that's what we're trying to do. Some would say we're overreacting to the orca threat. That's up to them. We've decided to absolutely minimise the risk, because if we did have our rudder taken out, like I say, the logistics would be a nightmare. There are some who doubt the orca threat or think it is overhyped. Reports of orca interactions started coming in not long after we arrived in Gibraltar. This footage is from good friends of ours who left Portimao a few weeks after us. They are now in Africa having their rudder repaired.
I was just saying to Ian how awful it is that because of the situation with orcas, you have a first reaction is your heart to leap into your mouth because you see a black dorsal fin, and we're just waiting to see if there's any white on them, if they are orcas and that. And it's such a shame, without the orca situation, we'd be ecstatic to see whales and orcas, you know, at sea. Anyway, back to the journey. We were lucky that we weren't attacked, but you can see why we were taking all precautions that we could.
So fabulous to be back out. I could just stand up here for hours and hours. I'm in a t-shirt on the 1st of March, 2nd of March. It's 1:30 now. We got about another 3 hours to go until we get to the Guadiana River. And then we can poodle on up there, hopefully. The tide should be coming out and the wind is sort of coming in a bit, so we might have a little bit of wind over tide situation. Hope not, but if we do, we'll just carry on to the next river down, which we'll get to after dark, but we'll live with that. So yeah, fantastic. So we're just recommissioning the water maker after the winter. I've switched it on in the engine bay and it's pumping water through, but now I've got to go and close the pressure relief valve, and then hopefully it will start making water. So that's the water coming through there, and that's so I've got it diverted to come out the sink first, because we tested it first of all to make sure it doesn't smell or taste horrible. So I'll give that a while to run through, and then I'll divert it to the water tank. So hopefully it'll be working after its 6-month rest. So we'll put some this water in the glass. Tastes all right to me, but we've got a sophisticated testing system that I need to run it by first. So that's the final waypoint in before we get to the first marker of the river, the Guadiana River. We're kind of exactly downwind now, so we got the main has gone out one side on the starboard side, and the Genoa, yeah, it's not too happy. It's kind of flapping around in the front. It was wing on wing without the pole just now, but we've got 42 minutes to go, so it's not really worth poling it out. So if it doesn't behave in a minute, it's going to get rolled up. When you are ready, release. So one of our winter jobs was to replace the furling line and the rollers, because the rollers were probably original and there was a lot of friction and the line was horrible and old. But I've just pulled, and I used to really struggle to pull it in. This time it came in really smoothly, so really pleased about that. Right, we better get the main down as well. I don't want to get caught with the sail blowing us in, so. Okay, you can go back on now.
Come back round?
Yeah. When sailing into possible shallow waters, I prefer to come in carefully under engine, just in case we run aground. With the sails up downwind, you would be forced hard aground by the wind pushing you in that direction.
Oddly, this feels very much like the south coast of the UK. Can't explain why. I just said to Ian and he agrees. It feels like they've just gone into Chichester or somewhere.
So we give the boat a big handful of stern power, so we've got like 2,500 revs of stern. Make sure that the boat stays in place with the anchor and that the chain is bar tight. So making sure the chain is really tight, tread on it. And if you put your foot on it, if you got your foot on it, if you can feel it like jumping like that, that's it skimming over the bottom. So you don't want that jumping to happen. So it needs to be nice and tight and no skipping over the bottom. You can see all the prop wash coming out here, look. But I'm happy with that, the anchor is secure. So the Rio Guadiana is the border between Portugal and Spain, the River Guadiana. So on that side is Portugal, on this side is Spain. We're on the Spanish side now, so now we need to change our courtesy flag, take down the Portuguese one and put up the Spanish one, because technically we're in Spain.
The Guadiana was just a short stopover with another early departure the following day. As day broke, the seas were calm, but the forecast did suggest it might get a little lively later.
You can probably see the sail there, there's no wind in it at all. But if you look on the water, there is wind on the water. And the reason that there's wind on the water but not in the sails is the wind is going pretty much the same direction as us at the same speed. So we're doing 6 knots forward, 6.5 knots forward. If the wind is blowing at 6 knots, then the wind on the boat will be like 0. So that's called the apparent wind. So see if we can give you a sense of the time as it goes. So it's 9:45 now, and the weather forecast is supposed to pick up about midday. The wind's already come around. We've turned 20 degrees from where the wind was right behind us, and now the wind is coming over our starboard side, and it's no longer 0. So it's starting to pick up, and sometimes you'd be surprised how quickly it goes when it says it's going to, when it does go. So 1 hour later, 10:45. Not a lot of change on the wind gauge, but things are changing outside. What are you seeing?
Well, the sky is now darker than the sea behind us, so that's a good indication that there's weather coming that way. The waves are picking up from behind.
The sea definitely looks more ruffled, but we're still not showing anything on the anemometer, the wind speed meter. but it's coming. It's not actually due to be windy until about midday, so we shall see. 11:30, some life in the flags and a little bit of a boost to the speed. It's starting. The wind has gone very close to our nose now, even though it should be behind us. I don't know.
Again, we've now got 30 knots of wind. It's absolutely tipping it down, blowing a hoolie. It's like we've been transported back to the south coast of the UK in time. But Ian is still having his biscuits and coffee out there to white out with the rain. We're heeling over 25 degrees.
Holy guacamole! It is throwing it down. We are getting soaked. So the wind's suddenly gone round more behind us, and the rain is just pouring into the cockpit now. But we need to stay on this course really, because that's where we're going. Trying to get our wet weather gear on.
There's 35 knots a minute ago, so it changed.
Yeah, it literally went up to like 35 knots, and then it just swung. It absolutely swung. We were really close hauled, and now look at us. 25 knots on the beam now, and it's literally gone right round behind us. So yeah, crazy. Ten minutes later, totally soaked. Wind's dropped right down to 10 knots. Rain's gone on its way. Almost like it never happened. It was 35 knots in the gusts there. So a little bit lively. We rolled up as much head, you know, we left out a tiny piece of head sail. Rolled some more up. Really glad I changed the furling line, because that was much easier than it would have been before that. Let a bit out again now, because we were kind of rolling around in the leftover waves with not enough power. So we put a bit more out. We're down to 5 knots. But the rain has stopped, which is good. The wind did pick back up, and we had a really rolly final approach across the Bay of Cadiz to drop anchor in the dark right by the big bridge.
So that was just part one of our epic voyage across the Mediterranean. Stay tuned as we make our way to Gibraltar, explore the rock, and then begin our epic 28-day passage across the Mediterranean without going ashore.
And don't forget to help us out all you can by interacting with the video, like it, comment on it, share it to anyone you think might like it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It really helps replace that poor little baby drone who went for a swim on the way across it.